Oh, I'm gonna have to be real careful with this video. I'm gonna have to be real careful with this video right here. Let me not get canceled out here in these streets. So last night's episode of HBO's The Last of Us Bro aired last night. I believe episode 3 was called Long Time. It's been a long time. Long time coming for Bill and Frank. Long time coming for them. So, episode 3 was last night. This is going to be my review for it. A lot of people are talking about this episode as I predicted. So yeah, let's get into it. Again, this is the Bill episode. They really didn't spend too much time with Joel and Ellie at all. I mean, they were in this episode, but like not a lot. This episode was all about Brother Bill and Frank. And you know, again, I like really not too much of this episode really shocked me, because as soon as they showed the preview for this episode last week and they showed that they was gonna, you know, get into more of that backstory of Bill and Frank, his partner that we didn't really know too much about in the game, I was like, oh, this gonna be one I was like, oh, this gonna be one of those episodes like where they really get into this junk. And you know, just with, you know, the world we live in today, you know, mainstream media gonna eat this junk up. You know, like you was hearing suckers say, oh, episode 3 is a masterpiece and it's cinema and it's one of the greatest episodes in television history. Like you was hearing this junk before this episode came out. None of this junk shocks me, bro. In this episode, there's multiple time jumps. I think at first they do a flashback back to 2003. Then it goes to, then there's a time jump to 2007. Then from 07 to like 2010 to 2013. Like, I was like, I hope they don't go on that I hope they don't go on that Last of Us 2. We jumping from here, there. Bro, oh my, I don't care about this chick. We doing another flashback, Neil? Joel and Ellie are talking at like the very beginning, but then it very quickly shifts over to Bill. And I was very interested to see what they do with Bill in this series, right? You know, because Bill was always, again, if you played the games, like Bill is a great character. And honestly, in the games, like, after Last of Us 1, like, you don't hear about Bill again. Like, in Last of Us 2, his name is, like, brought up, like, briefly when Ellie is talking to Dina. But it's, like, his, like, story is kind of unknown after, you know, you split ways with him in Last of Us. So I was very interested to see what they do with Bill in this series and how, you know, we could learn more about him. And especially, you know, his, you know, partner, Frank. This episode was pretty much like a big love story between Bill and Frank. Like, this is the gay episode. This is the gay episode. And I knew, like, literally the way that people are reacting is exactly what I expected. You got that one side of people that was watching this episode and was like, here we go again. They pushing the gay agenda. You got that side. And then you got this side of people saying, oh, this is a masterpiece episode. We'll never see a piece of cinema like this again in television history. Like, you got those two sides. There was a lot of Bill and Frank and, you know, how they met and how their relationship develops and how they differ from one another and how it eventually ends. That's really what this episode is all about. Like, this is 95% the Bill and Frank episode. So honestly though, I actually felt like the acting in this episode was probably some of the best acting that's been in this show yet. You know, I thought Nick Offerman as Bill, I thought he actually did a great job. I don't know the guy that plays Frank. I don't know his name, but he did a great job too. Like, acting wise, I actually thought this was one of the best episodes yet. Of course, though, because this is the relationship between Bill and Frank. You got some people, of course, that would watch this episode and be uncomfortable. And even I was uncomfortable at times. Seeing some of the stuff going on, but I didn't like let it get in the way for how I was going to judge this show. I knew that's what this episode was going to be about. So really nothing that was going on in this episode really shocked me, so Bill eventually comes across Frank, when he I think Frank falls into one of Bill's hole traps and then Bill comes out and then he says what do you want, and Frank is like, I'm not here to cause no trouble, I just want some food. Bill is of course wary of this dude because he don't know him. Eventually though, Bill lets Frank inside of his house. He tells him to clean up, and Bill makes a meal for both of them, and then they both sit down at the table. Frank is like, oh my god, this is amazing. Because this is the first time he's ate in God knows how long. And honestly, I actually really liked that scene where Frank after the meal is done, and then Frank he goes to Bill's piano, which I think Bill said was his mom's or something. And then he sits down and starts to play, and I thought this man was going to be a master piano like a master at playing the piano, but he was just singing. It was a very realistic take. I was expecting this dude to get on the piano and be freaking Stevie Wonder or something, and then Bill falls in love with him like that. But no, he was playing the piano and trying to sing, and then eventually Bill gets on the piano, and then Bill starts playing, and then he starts singing, and then you could see Frank getting emotional, Frank is actually oh my gosh, he's so talented. He's so talented, right? And I honestly liked how it's revealed, that Bill is gay, and how Frank picks up on that, and how Bill is kind of he's shy and really vulnerable and unsure of himself in that situation. That's something that you didn't really see in Last of Us, why can I never say it the first time, vulnerable side of Bill, and that shy and unsure of himself Bill. So I honestly liked that scene, when Frank kind of picks up on that he's gay, and then they start kissing. I was like, I actually like the way they did that. And again, the acting in this episode I thought was very good. The whole bedroom scene, which was the part, is because I was watching this with my the chat. Of course, that was the most uncomfortable, part of the episode. But again, I was paying attention to the acting. I knew this episode was going to have a lot of zesty action. I knew that. So really, I was prepared to see all of this jump. Bill, well, before that, freaking Frank makes out with a Bill, and then he's like, go take a shower. He tells Bill to take a shower. He's like, go freshen up. So Bill freshens up. He comes out. He has the towel on. This man Frank is already in the bed, shirt off. He freaking rips off Bill's towel. Of course, this man Bill is butt naked. He's butt naked under the towel. Frank lifts the sheets so Bill can get in, and then they get emotional, of course. Frank starts kissing on Bill the chest and starts making himself lower. I guess this sucker starts giving the gawk action because Bill's like so of course people are gonna be uncomfortable, seeing that. I was laughing during that part because my freaking chat is just so freaking dumb when I be watching these episodes with them. So it's You suckers need to mature. You suckers, like, I don't know what people expected. Like, I just all of like the zestiness that was going on in this episode. It didn't shock me because I'm like, okay, if this is going to be the episode to where Frank comes in, of course there's going to be, them diving into the relationship that they had because we didn't see that in the game, So I thought people, I don't know. I guess I was kind of. It's just kind of like, what did you suckers expect going into this episode? Did you think that they weren't gonna do stuff like this? Like I expected this. I just didn't expect them to spend so much time with it. Another time jump, and then at this point, I think somehow Frank came across either Tess or Joel or both of them, and he invited them to where him and Bill stay. So Frank Bill is having a kind of meeting / lunch with Tess and Joel, and that's how I guess they meet Bill. And Frank is trying to get them to work together, saying that, hey, we can help you guys and y'all can help us, it'll be a even trade-off type of deal type thing. Bill wants no parts of it. He's like, nah, I'm good. I don't trust nothing. I don't trust these suckers. We are fine the way we are. So Frank is kind of like the initiator of like the relationship. Like he is kind of like the guy that really gets things going, and like Bill is like that kind of like uptight dude to where like he just is kind of set in his ways. Like Frank is way more that like emotional. He's kind of like the wife of the relationship. He's kind of the wife of the relationship, because he's way more emotional and more empathetic and more trying to help out people. Eventually Bill caves in. He listens to Frank. They're gonna help out each other. Joel warns them, Joel warns Bill before they leave that, hey, you might have a good setup like right now, but eventually some raiders will find this place and they will come here armed and ready to attack, and it's gonna get bad for you. So Bill, you might think it's like all good now and you don't need our help, but that day is going to come when you do. And yeah, that day came real quick. Again, with all the freaking time jumps that was going on, I don't know, like if it happened like the next day, or if there was like, I think it was 3 years later. I don't know. There's like 4 or 5 time jumps or something like that. But eventually, though, Joel's prophecy does come true, and some raiders come in to Bill's place. They start to attack it. Bill gets shot like in like his lower stomach, whatever. So then Frank has to help Bill inside the house, but I think they do fight off the raiders, so that scene as well, like I really liked, this is again like a lot of stuff you didn't see in the first Last of Us, like how Bill got to where he was and why he was so like I don't trust nobody. And he was so set in his ways and paranoid, that paranoid Bill. It was like all of the ways that they were showing this stuff, I actually liked it. I was like, okay, this is going to be like how once Ellie and Joel comes across Bill, why he is so like messed up, right? Right? So yeah, Frank helps Bill in, after he gets shot, and he puts him on the table and tries to patch him up. There's another time jump. This is 10 years later. So this is now, I guess, in the present day. And I was confused because like these suckers look like, I'm like, bro, it was a 10-year time skip, but these suckers look like they in their 70s now. Like they was looking mad old. Freaking Frank is in a Frank is in a wheelchair. Bill looks like he freaking needs a cane. I'm like, bro, what the frick is going on? Like, what is going on? Like, where are they going with this? So Frank is sick with something. I don't know if they ever said like what he's sick with. I don't know if it was cancer. I don't think they ever did. They say that in the episode, like what he had. It was just kind of like he was sick and he was looking, old, decrepit. He was in a wheelchair. He needed help, from Bill to get around and like Bill to like wash him and stuff like that. Like he couldn't do nothing. He was just like, okay, he's sick now. Frank tells Bill, that he's that he pretty much doesn't want to live no more, and there's really nothing like he needs to do, so he just wants to have like one more great day, of him and Bill together, and Bill taking care of him and stuff like that. So of course Bill gets emotional. He starts crying. They hug, and Frank tells him, let's just live out this last day or something. I think Bill like put some type of drugs in Frank's drink. He'll put some Molly in a he'll put some Molly in a Frank's drink. I don't know why I'm laughing at that, but and that's supposed to kill a Frank. But then I wasn't seeing this coming. And again, this is going to get into, it's such a fine line with this show. If you are a fan of The Last of Us, the game, it's such a fine line. And I need suckers to stop putting words in my mouth. Literally before this show even started, I said, I want this show to stick close to the game, not stray too far away from the game, stick to the source material, but I would also like to see them, go on some different paths, go on some different routes that kind of makes the show different from the game. So when I seen suckers saying in my review for freaking episode 1, what do you just want this show to be a freaking one? What sucker said? Do you just want this show to be a 1-1 to the game? If you want to play the game, just play the game, Darky. That's never what I said from the beginning, you freaking idiots. I never said that. I want this show to do different things. But what's been going on in these 3 episodes now is a lot of the times when they do, some of the best scenes from the game are just like, bro, all of like the best scenes from the game have not been in this show. None of them. None of them. And again, I want them to take different paths and different routes. I want them to kind of put their own spin with this show to kind of make it different from the game. But again, it's that slippery slope. You can't stray too far left. You can't stray too far right. I know that's a hard job to do. So, yeah, this twist with Bill. Yeah, honestly, bro, at this point, at this point, this junk don't even shock me. There is no Joel and Ellie, they never meet Bill alive. Cause this man, Bill, decides that, nah, I ain't got nothing to live for or neither. If you out, I'm out. They die together. They both I guess they both go upstairs. They might bang one last time. Who knows? They might have died when they was banging. We don't know, because Bill writes a letter to Joel, and then once Ellie and Joel gets there, Ellie is reading the letter, about what Bill wrote to Joel, and it's pretty it's pretty much Bill's goodbye letter. He went out with Frank. He didn't want to live no more. Honestly, this sucker couldn't live no more. The way he was looking in this damn show, this sucker was not equipped to survive in this world. So yeah, the twist with Bill is he dies. And I'm gonna tell you why. Honestly, in my opinion, in a way, I like what they did more so with Bill in this show than what they did with Tess. I still feel like they butchered the hell out of Tess. I seen so many people trying to defend how Tess went out and why the stalker was kissing Tess. Bro, I don't want to hear none of that junk. Tess got butchered in this show. You can't convince me otherwise. You cannot. I don't want to hear it. However, though, with Bill, I kind of liked that in this show, at least there's closure to his story. Going to the game in Last of Us, yes, Bill is this paranoid freaking got guns everywhere, got guns all over the place, traps. This man is literally made for this world, you know. And of course, that scene, the iconic scene where Joel and Ellie first come into contact with Bill, is gone from this show. But in the game, after you leave Bill, again, he's never seen again. You don't know the ending to Bill's story. In Last of Us 2, he's not even in Last of Us 2. So it's kind of like, we don't know what's going on with Bill in like the game. He's just kind of like this ghost, this like unknown entity that you know still exists, but there's no closure to his story. At least in this show, I did like that they gave him closure. Because you know what happens to him. He goes out with Frank. He dies. So, again, this episode, I'm giving this episode a 6 out of 10. I'm giving this episode a 6 out of 10. But I actually, some of the stuff that they was doing in this episode, I actually did like. I thought acting-wise, again, this was probably one of the best episodes. I still like 1 a lot, like the first episode a lot. Some people thought that 1 was like back there. 1 was a great intro to this series, but you know, the acting again in this show, I don't feel like none of the actors are really doing like a horrible job, but at times it's just like, depending on like what scene it is, like they can have a great scene and then in the very next scene, the way they deliver a line, a certain look is like, I don't like it. You know, so, but I thought this episode had great consistent acting. I love how they portrayed the relationship of Bill and Frank, and I loved how, you know, Nick Offerman, his take of Bill. This show is the very epitome of, you're either going to like this show or you're going to hate it. There's like, because as a fan of the game, you literally have to take the game out of your head. And I really feel like I really went into this episode really trying to make an effort to do that. Because I noticed for the first 2, it's hard to watch this show if you are a fan of the masterpiece game and not compare it. It's just hard. The show is based off of the game, for crying out loud. So it's hard not to. But, you know, once you finally pry that out of your brain, I did enjoy this episode for what it was. Stuff that I did not like about this, again, Joel and Ellie are really not in this episode too, like, bro, again, 90% of this episode is literally just Bill and Frank on screen, like, and just their relationship. I just don't get how you can dedicate an entire episode of Bill and Frank, yet they just, bro, I cannot get over the way that they did Tess. I cannot get over it. And like, again, this season is 9 episodes, bro. So it's like dedicating an entire episode to a sucker that is already gone. Like, that's why I feel like a lot of people feel like this episode was kind of just like a waste, because it's like, the freak Bill just dies? It doesn't happen like that in the game. So it's like, what's the freaking purpose of freaking having Bill in this freaking show if that's the way he went out? But again, it's tough. It's tough to, you know, constantly be comparing, you know, or try not to compare this show to the game, because if you do that, it's hard to enjoy this show, bro. It is. So I actually, though, I enjoyed this episode more than episode 2, and I know that might sound crazy, but if you rewatch episode 2 is kind of like this episode in a way. A lot of talking, a lot of walking, not a lot of action going on, really. The only thing that people really talk about from episode 2 is that clicker scene. If you take the clicker scene out of episode 2, it's essentially the same junk with this. Like this episode really didn't have too much action. It was just literally a love story between Bill and Frank. So you had a lot of people. You had a lot of people saying that, bro, this episode boring. I ain't trying to see all this. The whole episode. Here we go. The gay agenda. Because there was really nothing else going on. But again, episode 2 didn't really have too much going on neither outside of that clicker scene, and we being real. So again, like, I will say it again. All of the people you got that are calling this show a masterpiece, like, bro, I just feel like the D rating for this show is at an all-time high. I've seen people say that this is one of the best television series ever. I've literally seen people in my comments say that. This is one of the best television series ever made. They were saying that after episode 2. Are you on crack? Are you actually on crack? Like, bro, I just feel like people are overhyping the hell out of this show. The D rating is at an all-time high. Again, I don't even think this show is bad. I'm still going to enjoy this show for what it's worth because I'm a Last of Us fan. I will admit it is hard sometimes, just like I said, to, get the game out of your mind because I'm such a fan of the first game and not always constantly be comparing it to scenes in this show. But I really tried to make an effort to do that in this episode, and I feel like that's why I enjoyed it more so than it seems like a lot of my chat. Most of my chat was not liking this episode. But again, the mainstream media and all these other suckers that are calling this show a masterpiece and is saying like just all the episodes have just been flawless so far. What the frick are you suckers watching? Suckers saying, oh, dude, this is the best video game adaptation. Like, what does that tell you about how low the bar is for video game adaptations? What, like, it's just clear evidence of how, like, low it actually has to be for people to think that this junk is a masterpiece. I'm not saying it's bad, but this junk does have a lot of flaws going on, and, I ain't got nothing else to say. Bro, I ain't got nothing else to say. I've been saying this junk since episode 1, and I'm gonna keep saying it. So yeah, I enjoyed this episode for what it was. I thought that they did drag out. It's so funny for me to now say, yo, they spent too much time with this when like prior I was like, they're not spending they're not spending enough time. This junk feels rushed, right? But in this episode, for them to dedicate an entire episode to this, and again, a lot of that interaction that you get with Bill, Joel, and Ellie in the game, that like iconic, memorable scenes, again, are gone in this show. So again, you gotta, get the game out of your head, but it's hard for a lot of people, clearly, to do that, so you just kind of gotta watch the show and kind of accept it for what it is. This junk is not like the game. A lot of the best moments that are in the game, not even a lot, pretty much all of the best moments so far at this point that were in the game are not in this show. It's either not in this show or when it happens in this show, it's nowhere near as good. It's nowhere near as good. So it's just, it is what it is. But I'm still enjoying the show, And that was another thing. You had people saying that like I hate the show, and if you hate the show, just play the game. I never said I hated this show, but I'm not gonna freaking deep throat the show and act like every episode has been a masterpiece like a lot of these suckers are. It hasn't. Period. It just has not been a masterpiece. Like every episode has had its flaws. I still feel like the best episode so far that I've seen is episode 1. Episode 1, I gave an 8 out of 10. After that, we'll see what episode 4 is like. But yeah, y'all let me know what y'all thought about this episode. How did you feel about it? You know, do you feel like this episode was a waste? Do you feel like they wasted Bill's character? Did you like the new twist? Did you kind of agree with what I said? How I at least liked how they gave Bill closure in the show that the game never really gave him. I really like that they did that. So that's actually that's probably one of my most favorite, I guess, deviations from the game that they did in the show. Again, I like it, but I don't like it because, again, that iconic scene with Bill is not here. But at least, again, they gave him closure that he doesn't get in the game series. So this is actually probably one of my favorite deviations that they did so far for a character in this series, because I did not like what they did with Tess. I'm sorry. I just didn't. But anyways, yeah, y'all let me know, what do y'all think about all the stuff that I just said? Leave it down in the comment section below. Stop listening to mainstream media. These suckers was swearing up and down that this show was a masterpiece episode. Ain't no damn way. Ain't no damn way. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are having a great day so far. Be safe out here in these next gen streets. To the next video, my brothers and sisters. I'll catch y'all boys in my next one. All right.